These are members of the terrorist group Al-Shabaab who have just stormed the luxurious Westgate shopping mall in Nairobi, Kenya, and started mercilessly shooting at everyone around them. The result of this massive massacre was dozens of deaths, hundreds of injured, and total devastation that shocked the entire world. The extremist Islamic group Al-Shabaab emerged in the early 21st century as a radical offshoot of the Islamic Courts Union, a coalition of Islamist courts that briefly controlled southern Somalia in 2006. The UIC enforced Islamic law and brought relative order to parts of Somalia, but it was defeated in December 2006 by the Ethiopian army at the request of the Somali government, significantly reducing its power. After the UIC's defeat, the extremist wing Al-Shabaab became independent and launched an insurgent and terrorist war against the Somali government and its allies, gradually gaining control over more and more territory. Following the withdrawal of Ethiopian forces in 2009, Al-Shabaab seized large parts of southern and central Somalia, including the capital Mogadishu and the strategic port of Kismayo. The group funded its activities through illegal charcoal trade, ransom from kidnappings, and the implementation of its own taxation system in the occupied territories. Thanks to the support of Al-Qaeda, to which it officially pledged allegiance in 2012, Al-Shabaab received military training, funding, and ideological guidance, enabling it to effectively conduct all its operations. In October 2011, Kenya launched a military operation against Al-Shabaab in southern Somalia called Lindanchi. The main reason for this was the group's increasing attacks on Kenyan territory, particularly the kidnappings of foreign tourists and humanitarian workers. Kenya feared that Al-Shabaab would expand its influence into northern Kenya, where a large Somali community resides, and wanted to contribute to regional stability. The Kenyan army, supported by Somali government forces, gradually advanced towards the port of Kismayo, which was a key source of revenue for Al-Shabaab. In September 2012, they finally managed to capture the city. As a result, the organization lost an important financial source, and overall it was a significant blow to them, prompting them to respond with drastic measures. In mid-September 2013, the Kenyan police stopped a large-scale terrorist attack in its final planning stage when they arrested two men of Somali origin in whose possession they found grenades, automatic rifles, and explosive vests. At the same time, authorities were searching for 8 more suspects whom the United Nations had warned Kenya about in connection with the planning of an even larger operation. The leader of a special Al-Shabaab subunit, Adam Gurar, began studying the plans of the Westgate Mall in Nairobi in 2011, intending to attack it as retaliation for Operation Lindanchi. He specifically chose this building because it was a popular spot for diplomats, had relatively low security, and contained a large concentration of people. All 4 terrorists assigned to carry out the attack arrived in Nairobi from different parts of Africa about 3 months before the operation. Despite Garar's sudden death, they continued with their preparations, and then on September 21, 2013, it happened. At 12:25 p.m., 4 terrorists wearing masks jumped out of silver Mitsubishi Lancer on Wannsee Road, near the entrance to the Westgate shopping mall. Immediately, one of them threw a grenade towards a nearby cafe, while 2 more grenades were hurled at a security checkpoint. The attackers then split into 2 pairs. One pair proceeded towards the mall's main pedestrian entrance. Security camera footage captured the first moments of gunfire. The second pair of attackers headed to the upper parking lot where a children's cooking competition was taking place. They approached, threw grenades, and began shooting indiscriminately. One of the militants spoke in English. "In the name of Allah, we have come to kill you, Christians and Kenyans, for what you are doing in Somalia." Meanwhile, the first pair of attackers moved further down the hallway where they shot another person lying on the ground. During the attack, one of the terrorists, later identified as Hassan Abdullah, called his uncle in Egypt and told him to turn on BBC, saying, "I am responsible for this, say hello to the family." The pair then proceeded to another section of the mall where many people were still unaware of the danger heading their way. Many people managed to flee. However, one man, wounded and unable to stand, desperately tried to hide behind an elephant statue. Unfortunately, it did nothing to save him. Meanwhile, clerk Joshua Hakim had no idea about the shooting unfolding inside the mall and, without any concern, walked in to buy a beer. Suddenly, he heard gunshots from the floor below and quickly sought cover. When the two attackers reached the same floor where Joshua was hiding, they fired several shots and shouted in English, "Muslims, get out!" Gathering all his courage, Joshua approached one of the terrorists and showed him his voter ID, deliberately covering his Christian name with his finger. The terrorist shouted at him to leave and spared his life. The attackers then turned to an older man of Indian origin and demanded that he name the mother of the Prophet Muhammad. When he hesitated, they shot him. Meanwhile, the second pair of attackers approached the restaurant 2 floors up, where security camera footage once again showed people desperately trying to escape the gunfire. However, some men in the area were carrying legally owned firearms, and one of them was even a police officer. Carefully, they attempted to return fire and eliminate the attackers. The terrorists, however, managed to take cover behind pillars and then calmly moved to another part of the building. At 1:15 p.m., all 4 terrorists regrouped inside the Nakumatt supermarket, where dozens of people had sought refuge from the gunfire.
No, just stay this way. Don't go out.
Yeah, they are armed. FLC2. These are terrorists. I think they are terrorists, not.
When the terrorists found them, they surprisingly chose to spare some. One of them was a 4-year-old boy who began shouting at the attackers, telling them they had shot his mother. They also allowed another mother and her 2 children to leave, along with a wounded teenage girl, as well as all the Muslims present. For the others, however, the outcome was tragically different. Finally, the attackers encountered police forces and a gunfight broke out. Eventually, all 4 terrorists fled into a storage room. Their security footage showed them doing something on their phones and praying. They remained there until the end of their operation when, according to reports, they all died from smoke inhalation. Though the whole attack was under control only after 4 days, as the police didn't know how many attackers there were, if they were still alive, or if they had planted any explosives. They have also during the attack allegedly taken people as hostages, though I didn't manage to find much information about that. The aftermath of the attack was devastating. At least 71 people were killed and over 200 others were injured. Parts of the building were severely damaged by grenade explosions and gunfire, causing sections to collapse, which further complicated rescue missions after the attack. Immediately after the massacre, a large-scale investigation was launched, leading to the arrest of dozens of potential accomplices shortly afterward. In 2022, 4 men appeared in court, but only 2 of them were convicted. Al-Shabaab was very open both during and after the attack about taking full responsibility for the massacre. They also threatened that as long as Kenyan forces occupied their territory in Somalia, the war would continue. And unfortunately, they kept their word. Since then, Al-Shabaab has been responsible for many more violent attacks, resulting in the deaths of hundreds more civilians. If you're interested in another video covering these other terrorist attacks, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you like this video and want to see more, then please like this video and consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.